Temple. Game number 1, we are going to see Bergz playing as Terran over on the mid left here. At the bottom, WiNdChIlL spawning as the red Protoss. Now, this map, of course, is a pretty big map. It's a classic map from the Blizzard series. I'm sure all of you guys that are watching this stream are familiar with it. And, you know, this being a big map like this, especially with these spawn points, we're probably going to see a little bit longer game, a more heavy macro game, because the distance by ground, of course, a lot further away in these 2 spawn points. These are almost as far away, if not farther away, than cross spawn points. Of course, the big plus side for them on these particular 2 positions is the distance by air is a lot less. So Banshees in this position for our Terran player Bergz going to be a lot more successful, because obviously they'll be able to get those Banshees over to the Protoss base a lot quicker. So those extra few seconds that you save in travel time are you know, going to save you a little bit. And I need to stop looking at that chat because it is distracting me way too much right now. I am just having a good old time reading all the funny comments that you guys are leaving on there. But anyways, thanks again for everybody tuning in. I know that we don't have a whole heck of a lot of viewers right now, but this is the first event that Team PPG is doing, and we're, you know, facing off against another team that has been somewhat established, been around for a little bit. Of course, these guys are not pro gamers, but they are a team nonetheless. They practice together, they learn together, they play together, and you know, they're facing off against a newer team, and we are going to see some pretty fun games here tonight, I think. But the Terran player Bergz, as we can see here, getting up his refinery, getting up his barracks, playing pretty defensively, building all of his structures back off of his ramp, which is very, very good, because a lot of people will build them up in front here, and if you're taking on trying to defend against an offensive push from a Protoss player, especially if they're stalker heavy, you can lose a lot of production buildings, and you also limit the amount of surface area that you have for your ranged units to do damage as well. But it looks like Bergz doing pretty good timing on getting that orbital command up and running. He is getting it right around 16, which is great, and both players scouting each other absolutely last. So it looks like they're not going to be able to scout and get a whole lot of intel before they get pushed out, although it looks like they are going to be able to scout each other's base completely before they are forced out. And it looks like Bergz actually going to go ahead and get up that reactor now that he has 1 Marine up, so possibly going to be putting on some Marine pressure. Meanwhile, the Cybernetics Core from WiNdChIlL coming out, it's about halfway done right now, and we are going to see this SCV continue to scout around in the base until that Stalker gets out, once the Cybernetics Core is finished. And then, of course, after that happens, we will see what his true tech is going to be. All Protoss players, at least at a higher level, typically wait until they scare that 1 scout out of their base. And actually, a very interesting thing to note here, Bergz only mined enough gas so that he could get that reactor up and running, and immediately sent his SCVs back onto gas. It looks like he's actually going to be getting up an early command center, so going for a very fast expand. Meanwhile, he still has a scouting SCV over here, and the Zealot is out, and there's actually no Stalker building, so this SCV going to be able to continue to scout if he controls it properly. 1 more hit on that thing and it would have been gone. Oh, and there it goes. It's gone. Unfortunately, the SCV was not being controlled properly, so he did lose that. Bad, Bergz, bad. Oh, and unfortunately, our Protoss player WiNdChIlL is supply blocked currently, so that is definitely going to slow him down on getting that production out. And he is putting up a proxy pylon up at the cliff near the 12 o'clock position. This is going to allow him to warp in units for a proxy rush once he gets his warp gate technology up and running, which we see is at about halfway done. Most Protoss players time that out so they can get it out right around the 6 to 6.5 minute mark if warp gate is indeed their chosen tech of choice, which that seemed a little bit redundant, chosen tech of choice. Anyways, getting back to the game here, another gateway going down right now. So we're seeing 3 gate here, probably going to see a 4th gate here somewhat soon. It looks like this is very, very similar to pretty much every 4 gate strategy I've ever seen. So 4 gate, very, very popular for Protoss players, and it looks like that is exactly what we're going to see from him here. And another orbital command going up at the expansion for Bergz, so he is going for a very, very heavy economy. And looking at the income right now, we can see that he is actually slightly behind on the harvester count, although even with being behind on the harvester count, he has still got a similar income, even a little bit higher at points on the minerals, simply because of the mules. Mules so powerful, returning 30 minerals a trip, of course, allowing him to get a very strong income even with slightly less units. And there's an SCV actually chilling up at the top of the map here. Not sure exactly what that's for, if he's going to try to possibly get a hidden expansion up here, although he did scout this. I'm not sure if WiNdChIlL realized it, but this SCV apparently did scout this proxy pylon, so he is probably probably aware of what's coming. I'm sure any good player would deduce by that hidden pylon that there is a warp gate rush coming at some point. Oh, and here we go. Rather than going for the fourth gateway, we're actually going to see a Stargate and chrono boosting out a Void Ray. And if he can get a couple Void Rays with the ground support of this army with Stalkers and Zealots and maybe even a couple of Sentries, he is going to have a pretty fearsome army to deal with, especially if he's continuing to warp units in on the high ground next to that pylon. And once again, Bergz running that SCV right next to the pylon from WiNdChIlL. So if he did not see it the first time, he had to have seen it that time, unless he was just completely not paying attention. Although it looks like Bergz needs to spend a little bit more time getting some SCVs up and running. Having that extra orbital command is definitely useful for the mules, but the amount of SCVs that he needs in order to actually make this expansion worthwhile is far above what he's working with right now. So that is definitely something that he needs to work on just a little bit more. But as you can see, playing very defensively, and here comes the Protoss push. We've got a bunch of Stalkers, couple Sentries, one Zealot and a Void Ray. The Zealot not in good position, but he is still going to be able to get up there at some point, I would think. No, he's going to back off, and it looks like the Terran player, Bergz, bringing up his SCVs to repair the bunkers, and there is a pretty scary amount of units for both players for how early this is. Looks like they could possibly have a serious clash here in a little bit as more units continue to warp in here for WiNdChIlL next to this Xel'Naga watchtower, continuing to control that. And while he puts the pressure on Bergz' front door, he is going to go ahead and take his natural expansion, assuming that, of course, Bergz has done the same, since he does have these defensive bunkers on the low ground out in front of his base. And as you can see, Bergz still significantly behind in the harvester count, having 7 less harvesters than his Protoss opponent. And here comes the attack once again. One Stalker already going down. This bunker is not getting repaired, and he's going to lose that bunker straight away. This Void Ray could do some serious damage if these Marines can't take out the ground forces unless he decides to focus fire down. But of course, those Stalkers can deal some serious damage in the time that he is trying to focus fire down that Void Ray. A decent amount of the Sentries here getting low on HP, it looks like, but there are more units continuing to warp in all the time, and it looks like Bergz is actually going to try to push out here and maybe take out this take out this Protoss army and force him back in. Some pretty good force fields there, splitting up the army for Bergz a little bit, and we see Stim coming in now, and the concussive shields slowing down the Zealots from getting within range, and it looks like Bergz is going to clean this up with no problem at all. Only one Stalker and one Zealot remaining. That Zealot goes down, and down goes the Stalker, and then the proxy pylon, and I'm guessing he is probably going to run up here and go ahead and take this proxy tech out as well. No, he's not. He's actually just going to go straight for the counterattack, and I'm not sure why he's not going up here. WiNDCHILL is actually hiding tech up there because he thinks that Bergz still has not seen that, and as we saw a little bit earlier, he is 100% aware that that proxy pylon is here. And once again, Bergz just continuing to fall behind in the harvester count, but he has a large army en route to take out WiNDCHILL, and WiNDCHILL may not be able to hold this off. He does not have a whole lot of units on the map. If we take a look at the units overlay right now, we can see he's only got 2 Zealots and 1 Sentry, warping in a few more units right now, but he is going to be in a tough spot as we see a lot of orange. If you look on the mini-map, there's just tons streaming down, and WiNDCHILL is going to GG the first game going to Team PPG. So very, very successful game for Bergz. Great job to him. GG to his opponent, WiNDCHILL. WiNDCHILL played a valiant game, kept Bergz in his base for a little bit, but of course was unable to hold off the counter push. And it looks like we're going to be moving on to game 2. We're going to go and check and see what Gemini is going to be using for his next